Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 21st, and this is your Illyriad dev team chat. I am your host and community manager, Luna, and with me is GM Stormcrow, also known as James Niswan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's the second anniversary of Illyriad.
Yeah, this is our second year of existence for the game, so it officially launched, I guess, first day of alpha 2 years ago today. So that must have been quite exciting. I wasn't around at that time. So, what was it like that very first day?
It was a biblical nightmare. Thank you for asking. God, yeah. Launching your first game, especially not having any background in writing a game or working in the game industry, you just don't know. You put it live and you think, God, are people going to enjoy this? Is it going to be fun? And you've got your preconceived notions about what a game should be and what makes it fun. But until you put it live, you don't know that everyone else feels the same that you do. Are they going to enjoy it? Are the players going to have fun? Are people going to play the game and stick with it? Is it an amusing diversion? And putting it live, it's a leap of faith, to be frank. I have maximum respect for any indie game developers out there. Yeah. It's one thing if you're working for a big publishing house and, you're guaranteed if you work for Electronic Arts that your next releases can be played by millions of people. But, and that you're guaranteed quality control procedures that will make the game good. But, when you're doing it yourself as an independent, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that was nerve-wracking, but I think the fact that we're here today is a pretty good sign, right? So 2 years later, we're still kicking, still getting better, I think. So, so happy birthday to Illy, and thanks to the community for everyone who's been sticking around. I know we have players that are still active today that were there the first week or so, which is pretty impressive, I think. So that's quite cool from a community perspective. But what we're here today to really focus on is all the details for our next tournament number 5. We're going to share all the juicy details with you and then take quite a lot of community questions. We have about 1.5 million of them, so we're going to try to get to as many as we possibly can, hopefully answer them as well as we can. So thanks for all those questions submitted ahead of time. Really appreciate that. And then at the very end of the show, we have a couple little exciting things I think everyone might be pleased with. But let's just hop right in and talk about tournament number 5. Tell us all about it.
Okay, well, tournament number 5, it's our second anniversary tournament. By popular demand, it's kind of a repeat of the very first tournament, the Alliance number 1, with some twists. It's occupy the square, hold it for the largest amount of time possible. The difference this time around is in the first Alliance tournament, we only had 6 squares for the tournament. In this tournament, there's 1 square per region, so there are 37 squares that can be occupied. There are prizes for occupying as an alliance, each individual square, and then there are prizes for the aggregate time your alliance has occupied any square, and that will make the first, second, and third winners. So the fact that there are 37 squares does mean that there's, I think, a lot more strategy rather than just having the 8 in the first one. There will be alliances who hold back and build up their forces and come in on day 20 of the tournament to occupy all the squares on the map for 10 days, and they may win. Equally, there'll be alliances who occupy the squares from day 0 onwards. Because there are so many squares as well, and 1 per region, it also means that smaller alliances have a strong chance of actually winning a square and therefore winning a prize. Some small alliance based out in the far northwest of Algier, for example, up in the wastes or in Ragalon, might have a good chance of actually winning that single square if that's all they concentrate on. So there's quite a lot of strategy and logistics, I think, in this tournament. How many squares do you go for? How many can you possibly hold at what distance? And one of the big problems with the first tournament that I think we had was that, for some squares, after halfway through the tournament, one alliance had actually won that square. That square had been done and dusted. Whereas this one, with the first, second, third alliances being based on the aggregate of how long all of the squares have been occupied, it means that even after you've actually won a specific square, still value in holding it or value in trying to kick someone off it. Like the first alliance tournament, this one will require a suspension of the NAP and Confederation rules on the tournament squares. So alliances who have NAPs and confederations with one another will be able to fight with one another on these squares, and only these squares. A couple of other things that we're introducing with this tournament: whilst you are in occupation of a square as a player, you will not be able to leave or be kicked out of your alliance, or indeed accept an invitation to join another alliance. So whilst you're on a square, you are holding it on behalf of an alliance, and you cannot leave or be kicked out of that alliance until you give up your occupation of that square that you're holding on their behalf. All in all, it's pretty much the first alliance tournament with a few twists. And
when does this begin?
It's going to start at midnight tonight, which I realise is very short notice for everyone. But we like to do things at short notice for Illyriad. It will begin at midnight tonight, and it will run for an entire month. So up until midnight on the 21st of March. And the prizes are very, very cool. In the past, most of our prizes have been entirely in-game. For the first time, we've actually tied up with a couple of other companies, and we have prize sponsors, in fact, for this tournament. Engine, bless them, are providing our first place prize, which is a 1-year subscription to the Ultimate Engine package, which includes a 50-person Mumble server, a huge number of Alliance tools for actually looking after and talking with your guild. It's a package worth roughly $275. Is part of that's our first prize. And our second and third prizes have been provided by providing. Second and third place is a 6-month Ventrilo or Mumble server.
It's really exciting to actually get to provide things for the community that I hope will be very useful for our alliances. Things like voice chat, in my experience in the past in other games and guilds, was, a great way to connect with your alliance members or guild members and things like that. So, we hope that you can enjoy these features, and our first place prize of Engine, a year of really amazing website hosting for your alliance is quite cool. So I really hope that you enjoy these kind of prizes that you can get. And that's not it. There's a ton of in-game stuff, too. You want to go over that as well?
Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to add that obviously Engine first 1-year Ultimate package is a fantastic prize. And ditto, the second and third place Mumble Vent servers from Frag are fantastic too. We will also be giving prestige rewards for every single player in an alliance that wins a square, as well as in-game rewards, including elite Praetorian Guards, standard Praetorian Guards, and scribes of Allenbean to everyone in the alliances that win various squares, as well as the first, second, and third places. So, yeah, there's a lot to play for here.
Absolutely. So that's really exciting and starting at midnight tonight, so get ready. It's really, really fast, approaching, like within a matter of hours, I think, at this point. So if you need to make plans, do so quickly.
Yeah, actually, people looking at the clock and,
freaking out, just a tad. We'll jump right into all of our community questions. As I mentioned, there are quite a lot of them. So we'll start right away with one from Rill, who asks, I've heard that you've been adding new staff members at Illy. Can you describe some of the recent additions and possible future additions to the Illy staff, and how will this affect development timelines?
Yeah, absolutely. The second year anniversary of Illyriad actually we're putting a press release out later on today, but we have successfully completed a fundraising round. Not that we actually necessarily needed the funds, but it's always good to have more money to do things faster. So we've just completed an external fundraising round and have raised sufficient cash that we can hire full-time a number of other developers, as well as game designers, and expand the internal Illyriad team. I'm delighted to announce that we have two new non-executive directors of the company, and details will be in the press release, comes later. But equally, we've got Richard Hensley, who is a fantastic coder that we've known for a while. We couldn't bring him on board because we couldn't pay him, but now we can. He's working flat out on a bunch of stuff for us that we want to bring into game, specifically starting with cloud computing, scalability issues, but specifically around Chat v3, a in-game chat function that actually does a lot more than Global Chat currently does, or Alliance Chat currently does. We're talking about private chat, invite-only chat, player-run chat rooms, huge numbers of chat channels that cross boundaries and are run by the players opposed to the moderators. Global chat is becoming a little bit unusable because it's so many people in it and so much text calling up, and equally it's a room that we have to moderate because it is global. Whereas if we can start providing chat rooms that other players can moderate themselves, they can be responsible for their own content in those areas. So Rick Hensley joins us. Simon Hopkins joins us. He's working specifically on the 3D WebGL environments, which I think a number of players have seen some of our demos and tests. If you haven't, you can go off to the dev blog and have a look. But that's where he's concentrating his efforts. We also have TBK Cosmin, who has joined us as a full-time game designer. I think most people you may have run into him before. He is by the name Akita in the Illyriad forums as our in-game economist. But he's specifically now working on game design of the new economic realities that are coming in with Trade V2, as well as the new magic schools, which actually, at the moment, there are 18 tradable goods in Illyriad. This is going to number in the thousands very, very quickly. And he is building the systems and the balance and the economic realities of how this will work with Trade V2. So, yeah, lots of new stuff. James Bell, also the very aptly named James Bell, joins us. He's working specifically on audio, and he's a sound engineer of some excellence, and is going to be bringing an audio dimension to Illyriad, which will take a number of forms. Again, if you go off the dev blog, you can see a bunch of posts from him about recording battle sounds in real-life historical reenactments and so on. As he says, when knights in armor use swords and have a huge combat, it sounds like someone rustling cutlery in a drawer. So that's the area that he's working on. So yes, the team has expanded, and we are. The whole reason behind the expansion is simply to get all of the things that we've been promising to the players for quite some time now, to get them done faster. Illyriad has sort of moved on from being a very small startup company of me and Thundercat to being we're sort of in that startup growing pains area where we now have staff and we now have people with responsibilities for specific things, and it's great, but it does mean that we need to spend a lot more time on management, well as a lot more time on actually getting stuff developed. And expanding the team is a great way of developing more things, more players, more quickly.
It's good to hear. I'm looking forward to chat myself. That's one of my new favorite things that's going to be coming to the game. So, from Gimli and Purple Rain both wanted to know, do you think that an app on the iPod, iPad, iPhone could be released?
Unlikely. Our mantra has always been HTML5, write the code once for one platform, and have it run as smoothly as possible. It's unlikely we will write our own iPhone or Android apps, unless they are purely in HTML5, in which case we may do it. But really, we don't want to get into the whole, every time we release something on Illyriad web browser, we have to update an iPhone and an iPhone app and all the rest of it. It's just duplicating the work. So unlikely, I think, is the answer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, technically you can currently play them on that. I do play on my iPad sometimes. It works. Maybe slightly less than perfectly, but it does work. So it's something.
Yes, you can. Because it's HTML5, you can play it in your browser. It doesn't have all of the functionality that you expect. For example, the ability to pinch zoom a map using your iPad or your iPhone to zoom in and zoom out. Those are iPhone-specific functions that aren't necessarily built into the HTML5 standard. So, we try and make it accessible by every device possible without actually pandering to each specific device and its specific requirements.
News on the possibility of another world or another continent, things like that.
Yes. yeah, very, very definitely. In fact, we actually already have a map of continent number 2. It's a very prescient question. I suspect that the renaming of Illyriad to actually be Algier may have spurred this. People have read into the fact that we've now have a continent called Algier. It means that there will be other continents. Yes, they're absolutely right. There will be other continents. We will release them as required when Algier fills up, which it's doing quite admirably at the moment. But when we reach a point where it's time to release a new continent, yes, we will. The continents will be separated by water, and we are still working out from a gameplay and balance perspective what communications we will allow between the continents. We want Illyriad to be a complete, coherent, cohesive, single shard world. We don't want it to be server 1, server 2, server 3. So we definitely want links between Algier and the continent number 2, whose name I was about to say, but I'm not going to. All continents 3, 4, and 5. So they will be linked in terms of gameplay, but they won't necessarily be linked in terms of a player on continent number 1 can maybe establish cities on continent number 2. You might require different accounts. Again, we're talking through this all at the moment, trying to work out what the best way of doing this is. But yes, we want it to be a single coherent world rather than lots of different servers, especially different servers with identical maps. One of the difficulties about being a game that is based on a handcrafted, fractally generated, but handcrafted in terms of names and factions and who is where on the world, is that every time we release a continent, we have to again handcraft it. We can't just randomly generate a world or say, oh yeah, here are new squares over here that you can expand into. It does need a certain amount of content written and content input to get it to actually work for players. So it's not a fast process, but it is happening.
Killer Poodle wanted to know, when can we get minimal solve on water, for example, food to start, and when will we be messing about in boats?
Well, 2 questions there. Minimal solve on water is... I don't give times out anymore, but it's imminent.
Okay.
And actually, a chunk of yesterday reviewing graphics for salmon, oysters, clams, tuna, various watery-based beef and fish and so on, and chickens and so on. So graphic production, fishing crustaceans and all sorts. Again, it has to be geographic specific. One of the key things that we want to do with Illyriad is to actually diversify the resources available graphically. So up in the far north, you will get Arctic char and Arctic salmon. Down in the far south, you will get tropical fish and tuna. But you don't get all of the resources, geographic resources available in every region, and it has to be biome focused, and they have to have uses and utilities that to differentiate. So stage 1 of giving utility to sovereign squares on water will simply be coastal. You can, without having a boat, you can dive for oysters or clams or, in fact, maybe fish. You're just using a rod from the shore, And that will be our first stage of making coastal squares more useful than they currently are, which is not useful at all at the moment. So that will be our first step. At later stages, when we've introduced pathfinding and naval, boat construction and the ability to actually move around the map on the water using a boat or a ship or whatever, then that opens up a whole new set of possibilities for what these squares can produce. But the first step is definitely coastal fishing, probably represented as sovereign claims of water that's on a coastal area directly from the land.
Cool. Fishing. Okay. Next question. We have to kind of go through these as quickly as possible. We've got a lot of them. I don't want to leave everybody out. But from Faldrin, any plans on lowering the range penalty or price on the sovereignty claims? And where did battle magic go? No plans on lowering that at the moment. The Chancery Estates building was our version of lowering the costs of claiming lands. So no. It may be that the Chancery Estate isn't actually providing the right level of reduction in cost, and maybe we need to tweak it. But the stats seem to show that it's about right, actually, in terms of what we want to achieve, in terms of a town can have sovereignty over X number of different squares. I think once we start allowing that sovereignty to mean other things beyond simply the construction of a sovereign structure. So, for example, you can build a road on it, or a canal, or whatever. In the future, when pathfinding is introduced, then I think it will become a lot more valuable to players. At the moment, I think there's very little incentive to claim more than your 20 squares worth of sovereignty, because you can only build 20 sovereign structures. But in the future, that will change. So I think until we've introduced the pathfinding aspect of it, the roads and canals and things you could build on these sovereign squares without necessarily supporting a structure, and we might look at it again. But no, I'm not planning on changing that. I'm sorry, what was the second question? Where did battle magic go?
Battle magic hasn't gone at all. In fact, it's quite imminent. It's probably not in the way that I think we initially thought about battle magic. I think we initially looked at battle magic as a set of spells you could cast on your army. You give it a bonus or whatever. But fundamentally, how does that differ really from leveling up your commander? What bonuses can we give? I think you saw in the last tournament 4, the Undead tournament, quite a lot of battle magic occurring. And whilst it may not have seemed as battle magic, it certainly was. For example, the zombies that would rise again from slain troops, or the Draco Liches that would cast various spells to. Actually, they didn't cast the spells because they only appeared in the final combat, and everyone's reinforcements made those spells not work. So, but there were a number of spells introduced in Tournament 4 that are quote unquote battle magic spells. They're spells cast by specific units during combat. And I think that's the route that we're going down. So it's less of the, I've got an army here and I want to give it a bonus. It's more of a, I will produce units via a new spell school, such as necromancy. I will raise the undead, and I will populate my army with liches or wights or phantasms or skeleton warriors, and they have the ability to cast these spells during combat.
So moving along from Barry Danwin asks, are there still official mysteries in game that no one has yet mentioned or maybe not found and codified on the various boards and wikis?
Yes, there are. And no, I'm not going to say anything more about them. That's why they're mysteries. But yes, there are mysteries out there that no one has even, no one's even aware of. And that's cool. That's great because, someone will run into them at some point. And that's cool. We don't mind writing content that. There's some mysteries that have been sitting there for more than a year. No one has even discovered the fact that they exist, and that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. And they also ask
if I hit year 3 and no one has discovered them, then we might put a copy in the Herald.
Right. And the next question was, during the last interview it was mentioned that there would be ways to get elementals in the future. Any more details on that?
More details on that. School of Magic upcoming heliomancy might have something to do with summoning elementals somewhere along the line. Beyond that, I'm probably not saying any more.
Okay.
I should quickly add that heliomancy is not one of our immediate spells. Yeah.
So, from player Torden Coffin, when do we get the Mana Projector, the Mansion of Misfortune, and the Military Academy?
Great question, Torden Coffin, thank you. Okay, long and short of it is the current ability to instant blight a player without any comeback, because the player can't find out who instant blighted them, is something that we are addressing with one of the new schools of magic. There are 3 new schools of magic coming up imminently, and then a further 3 later, and I'll list them. The 3 imminent ones are Abjuration, Animal Summoning, and Necromancy. The 3 coming up later are Scrying, Illusion, and Heliomancy. The 3 coming up quickly, Abjuration is the key one of those 3. Abjuration is a defensive magic spell school that has defense against hostile magic as well as defense against, for example, military attacks, and it's an entirely defensive school of magic. The key thing about that is that one of its major components is the ability to shrug off or build a spell shield against instant blight. So the reason I'm telling you all this is the Mansion of Misfortune, which increases the effectiveness of blight, and the Mana Projector building, which increases the range at which you can cast spells. Neither of them are buildings that we actually want to bring into game until players have a mechanism for defending themselves against hostile blights, which is the Abjuration School. So both of those buildings are waiting on Abjuration. Now, the Military Academy, which is a building we announced that increases the amount of experience that commanders could get. We wanted to release that in December, but decided not to because the tournament was upcoming. Because, it'd be a perfect way of just collecting huge amounts of commander experience, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But anyone, I think, who has a commander that's hit sort of into the level 70-ish zone has probably realized that there's a sudden cliff in terms of the amount of experience that you need to get to the next level. It's wrong. Basically, if you level up your commanders in a pretty linear fashion up till level 70-something, and then suddenly it's almost impossible to level them up, and we need to address that as well. We need to make the amount of experience required for each new level of commander a much more exponential type power curve than a sudden cliff. So there's a change there that we have to make before I want to release the Military Academy.
Moving right along, it also asks, there has been mention of a redesign of the Alliance forums, making them editable by Alliance members, and possibly additional features. Any guesstimate to when this is possible?
Something that we're looking at in some depth. One of the things Thundercat, Illyriad CTO, rates me about all the time is, why are we trying to develop an in-game forum system? Why are we reinventing the wheel? There are forum systems out there that we could simply provide in-game authentication. So, for example, you could have an Alliance forum based on existing forum software. And I know that our current forum software that we use, the Illyriad forums, is not the best system in the world. And again, we can look to migrate. What we would like to do is to actually migrate to a forum software system for both the external as well as the internal Alliance forums that actually uses the same code base that we don't have to write. It's kind of reinventing the wheel. We've written our own internal forum software that isn't great, allow editing and all sorts of things. But why are we spending time writing forum software? Couldn't we just repurpose existing forum software? And I guess that's the point. So if we can identify the right forum software that we can actually customize under license for internal Alliance forum usage, then that would be a much better solution than us trying to fix our existing slightly broken forum software that we've written ourselves. If that makes sense?
Yes. Let me see other questions. Some of these we've answered already. Let's see. Talked about new magic. Jeffrey asks, if you had unlimited development resources and time, what super awesome dream feature would you implement in the game?
If I had unlimited resources and time, I would probably retire to South America. Not do Illyriad at all.
Make a game called My Private Island.
With unlimited resources and time, I probably, from a pure game perspective, I would probably spend most of that time and effort developing a first-person version, kind of, along the EverQuest World of Warcraft lines. I still want the strategic elements that Illyriad has at the top, but I'd probably, with unlimited resources and time, that's where I'd go. And I'd do WebGL, HTML5, because no one has done this yet. There isn't an HTML5 WebGL 3D first-person game out there. And actually, there's no really good reason why there isn't. It's just that technology is too new and hasn't bedded in as well as people expected. And it's one of those. It's one of those weird things. With Illyriad, we've developed all of our own technology. Sure, we use a Windows server and we use Microsoft SQL Server in the back end and so on. But the simple fact is the actual underlying technology for so many games that are developed nowadays is actually outside of the technology zone that the developers themselves understand. For example, people buy a game license for the Unity engine or or Flash, and then they build a Flash game or a Unity 3D first-person shooter. At the end of the day, they don't know anything about what's going on in the back of that game. They're building a game as a game designer. They're not actually coding a game. And in Illyriad, all of our technology is proprietary. We use standard databases and standard operating software and standard stuff. All of the code that actually runs Illyriad, we have written ourselves. And that gives us a huge amount of control because we're not using a toolbox that we brought in or licensed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I really think that's a very important kind of distinction for why Illyriad is different. We haven't gone out and bought a license called Game Engine number 5. Here we go, and then built a game around the engine that we don't understand and can't customize. It's actually our own technology and our own intellectual property, our own development. And that gives us the flexibility to change it as we like. And so, the WebGL 3D stuff that we demonstrated, which is available on the dev blog, that's pretty groundbreaking, to be quite frank. There's no one out there doing stuff like this. Google themselves at New Game Conference in November said, "This is groundbreaking." We get asked to speak at conferences about what we've done with WebGL. And that's because we're developing our own technology. We're taking a standard and we're pushing it. So if I had unlimited money and unlimited resources, yeah, that's what I'd do. I would build a huge team to a 3D first-person Warcraft / EverQuest style game, or remake EVE Online as a browser-based WebGL game. Yeah,
okay,
that's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, ambitious, yes.
Next question from Invictusa asks, I would like to see an in-game utility for creating customized quests. Alliance leaders can already make up quests for their members with no more than a little imagination, but a utility making the idea more concrete would be fun.
Sorry, was that Invictus or
yes.
Invictus USA?
Something like that.
Anyway, genius question. Yeah, no, seriously, I just absolutely spectacularly good question. And yes, exactly that. I'm currently, and I'm not obviously running the company, my internal project that I'm working on at the moment is a web-based quest loading interface for our content writers to load, edit quests in a much more exciting way than we currently have. At the moment, our quests are pretty crap. I mean, forgive me for saying it, but they are. It's kind of trade quests, send X of this to Y location. You just press send, and you don't spend any time reading it or following it. The diplomatic quests are very straightforward. You just send a certain number of certain diplomatic units may location, and then the quest ends. Or you move on to part 2, and, but they're very, very straightforward, and they're very basic. I'm building a quest loading system at the moment that allows our content team to create hugely different quests with multiple outcomes depending on what you do. If the quest is rescue the kidnapped chieftain's daughter, you can rescue her in 7 ways. You could bribe people to release her. You could send them in trade caravans, or you could send assassins to kill the people guarding her and bring her back, or you could have an overwhelming military force, or multiple ways of completing the same quest is the entire point of the system that I'm currently building. Now, to specifically address your question, once that system is built and it's a web interface system, I want to pare it down, remove a lot of the functionality, but open it up to the players themselves, so players can create their own quests. And this will be part of, I guess, I'd almost describe it as a contract system, where you can say, hey, I need the most recent scout report of what this guy has in his city. And you could offer that as a quest, as a player. You could say, okay, I'm paying for 50,000 gold or whatever it is for scout reports about player X's current military position in that town. Or I'm paying Y if someone can assassinate this player's commander called F, or whatever it is. Actually allow players to define their own quests and have a system where players who wish to take on those quests can do that. So yes, absolutely, 100%. A player-driven quest system. And again, if someone just wants to do night quests, like follow the clues around the world map. When someone sends a spy to this square, give him this message, and then he can work it out and go to the next one. Or whatever. That's fine. But give the players the ability to actually build that content. One of our mantras, there is no content that we can produce that is as compelling as the content that players themselves produce. And we strongly believe that. We really do. We have to provide catalysts for friction, but we're not as fun or as clever as our players are. It's the fundamental. So, yeah.
Yes, that was the long version of the answer. Yes. Let me see here. Next up, we have from Half Eldir. Will the GMs be looking at how siege mechanics work? Maybe a stronger emphasis on Sally Forth.
No. Again, I'm slightly being a bit cagey about my answer to that. Siege mechanics are really, really difficult for us to touch. Because, ultimately, it's the ultimate sanction. One player versus another player. And touching siege mechanics is something that we do very, very lightly. Some of the new stuff coming up actually changes siege mechanics slightly. For example, the abjuration defenses magic will provide additional defenses against some siege mechanics. And balancing what we do with siege mechanics is a very, very difficult job. So, we touch it very lightly and at our peril. So no, I have no immediate plans to change siege mechanics at all, with the exception of some of the new stuff like Abjuration, School of Magic, which might have some spells that are applicable to siege. Equally, from an entirely logical perspective, it doesn't make sense that you can have siege engines defending a city that can't fire back. Cities, throughout history have had siege engines on the walls, firing back at the people assailing that city. And we don't have that currently in Illyriad. And I'd like to put it in there because it just makes sense to me logically. But it's just one of those things I'd rather not touch if unless I really, really have to. It's kind of balanced. It's not perfect, but it's kind of there. And if we're touching it with, for example, Abjuration, then I don't want to do more changes than that. Baby steps, I think, is the answer.
Okay. We still have a ton of questions. I'm going to let's do really fast answers and see if we can get as many in as possible before we go, because we've been at this for an hour already. Really quickly, from Bard, will the idea of nations and or territories be implemented? If so, are the devs hoping for more warlike activities?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Pretty quickly, yeah. It's definitely happening. We want players to be able to name their own areas of land, and actually put their own markers on the map, combined with the fact that we want certain resources to only be available in certain areas of the world. As I think I mentioned earlier, certain fish only appear in the north and certain fish only appear in the south. It's a very small example, but yes, economics and economic warfare, but economics-driven warfare. That's the key. So yes, a lot of what we're putting in place with faction quests in the future, as well as player-driven quests, as well as economic distribution of resources, is entirely designed to create friction, I guess. So yes, war is coming, and we need to provide more reasons for players to go to war and alliances to go to war.
Mandarins31 asks, is crafting still on the dev list, and would you have a clearer idea of how it would work?
Yes, it is very much still on the dev path. In fact, it's an absolutely critical part of full implementation of Trade V2, and as I mentioned, economic scarcity and resource distribution across the world. So yes, crafting is a huge focus. One of the reasons why Tibike, Akita, is now full time with us, because this is his speciality in his area, and he is providing all of this to us. So yes, crafting, and we have a very clear idea of how it will work. I'm not going to talk about it in any detail now, but yes.
Okay, so one last question. You have to kind of wrap this up, hopefully fairly soon. From Veneran, I would love to hear what motivated you to make this game. And I would also enjoy hearing about your hopes and dreams for Illy. If Illy was exactly what you wanted it to be, how would that look?
Crikey, that's a really good question. What motivated me to make Illyriad fundamentally is a midlife crisis. a huge, great, big, gaping midlife crisis. I'm sorry, I can't say any plainer than that. I was a corporate monkey for many years, and did pretty well. You know, the last company I was a director of had 350 employees. We were on the stock in London. We were sold for £58 million, about $70 million, I guess, US. To lastminute.com. It was a travel company. You know, my background is I've kind of been there and done that, and I had this huge midlife crisis where 2 years ago I released an album, well, actually 3 years ago now, of ambient and dance music on the internet, which did pretty well, but I was kind of sitting around going, well, what do I do with the rest of my life? You know, and I've got a lot of really good friends who all play games like me, who are big gamers, we're big strategy gamers. We all love Civilization, we all love Dune 2, or Masters of Orion, or, you know, you name them. We Elite, you know, back onto the old 1980s games. I mean, we all played them and we all loved them, and Red was entirely born out of that. It was a drunken 3 a.m. conversation called, all these free-to-play games are shit. Again, sorry, forgive my French. But, you know, we looked at Travian and Ebony and Grappus. They've all got their good points, but none of them have depth or epic or, you know, they all reset their worlds after a year. You know, all emotional investment as a player, I think, is the reason you're playing a game. Because you're emotionally, personally invested in it. And if you're not, then why are you playing it? So we kind of want to do that with Illyriad. And you know, it was literally a conversation very late at night called, what's the best bits about every that we've ever played and what makes it great? And, you know, so we looked at EVE Online and we said, oh my God, meta game, alliance politics on EVE Online is fantastic, but also the level of depth, if you want to go into huge detail on, you know, building or construction or research or invention or whatever in EVE, you can do that. So we sort of took that and we said, we love the map from Civilization and we love the way that world is generated. And we looked at the settlers and we said, oh my God, we love the way those things work and how that all fits together. So, you know, we sort of kind of, I guess Illyriad was a hybrid of all the best bits of the best games that we ever played when we were younger, yeah. And I guess I was insane enough to say, sod it, you know, I'll quit my real life job and, you know, put all the efforts into building a prototype, which is what originally went live 2 years ago today. And has now been massively changed, and I don't even understand the code myself anymore, because Thundercat has done a brilliant job of rewriting it. But that's how it started. It was a kind of a meh moment. What's wrong with gaming? I'm sorry, there was a second question there.
What are your hopes and dreams for the future of Illy? I would say maybe like this year, like what are you looking forward to?
This year I'm looking forward to three things fundamentally. One, improved communication, by which I specifically mean new chat, new forums for in-game player-to-player communication. Two, I'm really looking forward to pathfinding, which brings in naval combat and and all sorts of concepts like perception and ambush and toll booths and who holds the bridge between this island and that. Yeah, really exciting strategic options through pathfinding. Thirdly, trade v2 plus, by which I mean not just the fact that we're expanding the number of goods, but also that we're providing utility for those goods. So spell components, crafting, all of that. Well, actually, I guess there's a fourth area that I'm very excited about, which is, I think, probably more imminent maybe than some of the other ones, which is quests, faction quests, faction AI, and player-run quests as well. And that's, I guess, my fourth area that I'm really excited about. Yeah, so those are the things I'm really looking forward to in 2012. Pathfinding, communication, faction AI, faction quests, player quests, and enhanced trade stroke crafting.
Cool. Well, I think that's a lot to look forward to for everybody, and I know that everyone is looking forward to those things, so it's good to hear it. I think that's pretty much it for today. I'm sorry for the chat lag and the Skype issues and sound quality. It's all new to us, so thanks for hanging in there, everybody, and thanks for coming out to listen to us. It was really fun getting to share all this with you. And just before we go, I want to remind everybody to sign up for our mailing list on the front page of the new website. At the bottom right, you can sign up for mailings from Illy news and things like that, so please do that. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, all that stuff. It's all right there on the front page of the new website. And happy birthday to us and to Illy and to all of our community. When we leave here to celebrate, we're giving everyone active accounts in Game 25 free prestige. So happy birthday from us. We give gifts away on our birthday like hobbits. So, yay!
Yay!
If that's everything, we'll head out for today. But again, thanks for coming out. Thanks
and
for
also,
listening.
thank you very much to all the people in the chat room who are chatting away like mad.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry I couldn't get to your questions, chat room. I'm really sorry. I really wanted to. Next time we will do better. We really will. So there will be a next time. We'll do these more often. It's a lot of fun.
Catch you all later.
So talk to you later. Bye, everybody.